Hello, I'm Jeremy, and welcome to another episode of RevUs Reviews. Writing comedy is one of the hardest things to do in show business. You not only have to write jokes that are funny, but also jokes that are funny to a wide variety of people. Most people can't do this, which is why they write comedies that are unfunny, disgusting, boring, vapid, or too inclusive. However, some comedies are so dumb and moronic, they actually become enjoyable. A good example of this is today's subject, the 1996 Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin comedy, Bio-Dome. Bud McIntosh, aka Squirrely, and Doyle Johnson, aka Stubbs, are two college students who have the collective IQ of a mentally challenged amoeba. After Bud hits Doyle's skull with a book to get out of going to an environmental party with their girlfriends, Monique and Jen, the girls get the revenge on Squirrely and Stubbs by lying to them about going to a party with hot swimming guys. Bud and Doyle get in their car and drive off to reclaim their girlfriends, but find out they've been had, as the lake the girls told them they'd be at is a giant pile of sand and trash. On their way home, Doyle has to take a piss, so they stop at what they think is a mall, but is actually the titular Bio-Dome. Bio-Dome is a scientific facility filled with all the necessary equipment for prolonged survival. A science team, led by Dr. Noah Faulkner, played by William Atherton, the guy who played Walter Peck in Ghostbusters, will be sealed in this facility for a year. However, the door is sealed while Doyle is draining his lizard, resulting in Bud and Doyle being trapped in the facility along with the scientists. To say that Bio-Dome is a stupid movie is an understatement. Bio-Dome owns its stupidity and displays it proudly. The jokes in this film are stupid, bizarre, obnoxious, and silly. I can understand someone hating this film's comedy, but I think it's absolutely hilarious. This is what separates Bio-Dome from films like Movie 43 and Epic Movie. Movies like those are incredibly cynical. They exist solely to drain money from its audience and cash in on a trend before it dies into obscurity. Bio-Dome, on the other hand, is a film that just wants to entertain its audience. It's a film that, while stupid, is so innocent and naive that it's incredibly enjoyable. It's like an even stupider version of Surf Ninjas. On top of that, the characters are all really fun and enjoyable. First, Bud and Doyle. Bud and Doyle are really fun characters. There's just something really funny about Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin dancing around like idiots. They're incredibly fun, silly characters who, if you're not annoyed by them, you'll enjoy their antics just for how stupid they are. The stuff they say and the stuff they do is so idiotic that it's hilarious. In fact, the YouTube channel Mighty Lobster made a video titled Bio-Dome Highlight Reel, which features various scenes from the movie, and none of them fail to make me laugh. I put a link in the description in case you want to watch it. And Bud and Doyle do learn their lesson at the end of the movie and become better people. They motivate the Bio-Dome 5, except for Faulkner, who went insane, to fix the Bio-Dome damage and help the Bio-Dome fix the Bio-Dome in their own unique way. Also, their chemistry is fantastic. It's really nice seeing them comfort each other and interact off each other. Next are their girlfriends, Jen and Monique. Jen and Monique are okay as characters. Aside from the fact that Monique has an annoying voice, I don't really have anything negative to say about them. They're more than just annoying environmental straw women. They're complex characters that play off the idiotic Squirrely and Stubbs. Although one must wonder why on earth Jen and Monique are in love with Bud and Doyle, as they're like complete opposites. Next are the scientists. Mimi and Petra don't really have that much personality. While they do have a major role, they just don't offer much in the way of characters. Romulus is a little more complex, however. He's kind of a skittish, nervous, obsessive coward who's extremely disliking of Bud and Doyle. My favorite scene with him is when Doyle is hiding from Bud while playing hide and seek, and he goes into Romulus's butterfly room. It's interesting seeing these two opposite characters play off each other, and seeing Doyle trying to understand Romulus's activities. And while Bud and Doyle end up destroying the observatory, they try to make it up to Romulus by catching his butterflies with giant flypaper, and the scene has a payoff later when Doyle mentions that Romulus's butterflies are porking. Finally, Noah Faulkner. One of the most common criticisms of this film is that the film treats Faulkner as a villain despite the fact that he's right, that Bud and Doyle just strolled onto his property and made a mess of everything. I understand that criticism, but it isn't exactly correct. For one, Faulkner wasn't correct in wanting to murder Bud and Doyle by leaving them in the desert area. Sure, they ruined everything, but it's not like that was their intention. They were just at the wrong place at the wrong time. Also, the film doesn't simply treat Bud and Doyle as the heroes and Faulkner as the villain. The film is aware that Bud and Doyle are terrible people. And while they only learned their lesson after destroying the Bio-Dome, with a party so big it would put a New Year's gathering to shame, they did realize the extent of their bad actions and tried to fix them. As for Faulkner, I believe that he's more of a Shakespearean villain than an actual villain. Bud and Doyle ruined everything Faulkner was working on, culminating in the Bio-Dome destroying party. This turned him evil and insane, desiring to destroy the Bio-Dome. Faulkner is essentially a representation of Bud and Doyle's old selves. He's the result of all the horrible things Bud and Doyle did throughout the film. And while, it was Bud and Doyle's actions that caused all this, but at least the film is aware of how terrible Bud and Doyle were. Finally, the soundtrack. Bio-Dome has an incredibly impressive soundtrack. A few examples of the fantastic songs in this film are A-Directional, played during the opening credits, The Safety Dance, played during the Reviving the Dome montage, Stuck in the Middle, played during the Bud and Doyle laughing gas scene, and Suburbia, played during the scene where Bud hits Doyle's skull. Great soundtrack for an enjoyable film. In conclusion, Bio-Dome is an incredibly silly, stupid movie. Does it have problems? Yeah, it does have problems. But that's really the point. Bio-Dome is a film that you're meant to turn your brain off to. And I'm sick of people who act like that's a bad thing. This film is an absolute guilty pleasure. It's stupid, it's bizarre, it's silly, and it's fun. If you're looking for something fun to watch to keep your mind off this pandemic, I highly recommend checking this movie out. That's all for now. Join me next time when I list off the top 10 best films of an underrated short film company. See you then.